Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's top business interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, president of Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training. And my specialist today is Patrick Boulet, who is the CEO of ACRELEC Japan. Patrick, welcome.
Yeah, welcome
Well,
to ACRELEC Japan. Yeah,
ACRELEC. What is this business? Is this making acrylic sheets or something? I mean, people, I'm sure they think that's what it is.
It's an old story because ACRELEC was initially a French company based near Paris and doing, I would say, kind of electrical product. Mm-hmm. So not so much technology, at the beginning. It was cabling and 20 years ago. And then the two founders bought this company and make the big evolution in even revolution by bringing additional technology to the cabling initial
cabling.
ACRELEC, there is cable inside and elec is electricity.
Cable and electric. Okay,
yeah,
that's how they put it
ACRELEC.
together.
That's the story. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And how long has the company been going in Japan?
So I just arrived, compared to a lot of French I met here. So it's nearly more than 2 years. Mm-hmm. I just arrived after the COVID situation, which was anyway not easy to come in because we had a kind of confinement. We need to stay in the hotel.
I remember
to be my working visa was cancelled. Yeah. One time, and then I need to apply again. Oh. And finally, I stay 6 days, in the hotel room near the Osaka Kansai airport, right. Just waiting, that we after 6 days and with the bento on the door, they knocked on the door. It was really something, to come in this country at this time. So, yeah.
So the company itself, how long has it been in Japan as a company?
In Japan, it was created 4 years ago.
So it's relatively new.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, very new because we follow, in fact, our big customer, the lot of American brands. And for the time being, we most deploy in Europe. Okay, and then extended to other countries outside of Europe. And Japan, I would say, and that's part of the surprise, when you have heard about Japan as a very technology advanced country.
Yeah,
and then you see that finally there is a lot of things to do, a lot of room to improve.
You're still getting faxes here from clients?
Yeah, no, but it was a request, to create ACRELEC Japan. It was a request. Hey, please provide the fax number. I say, hey guys, we have no fax. And then I had, to create a kind of virtual fax number. But then they tested, and they wanted to be sure that there is a ring, when you call the fax line,
right.
To be sure that it's not false number. And then I cut it. We don't have fax anymore. But I had, to create this line to be granted and to get the ACRELEC Japan official opening.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So,
really.
And that's where Japan was the last country for ACRELEC to come in for our big international American customer mainly. And now there is a lot of things to do here.
So you didn't actually found the office in Japan. Someone else did that, and then you took over from them. Is that how it works?
Yes, I participate. I contribute because I am a member of the steering committee. So we took the decision. Right. And at the beginning, it was the APAC organization. We have in Hong Kong, we have a company taking care about affiliate, taking care about all the Asian business. Mm-hmm. And they have started here. And finally, I came in Japan, to really enhance the relation with our new shareholder, right. Because we have now a Japanese company in the shareholders, and I know very well Japan. In fact, even if I am only 2 years from here in Japan. My wife is Japanese, and then I travel a lot here before. And
so let's go back and let's talk about that background because, you've been in the company in Europe and they've decided to follow their clients around the world, which is very typical, right? So how did you get to know about Japan? How did you get to come to Japan? Why did they choose you to come, or why did you choose to come to Japan? What's the background there?
So I was working before with in a French company. The name is very similar. It was Alcatel.
Oh, Alcatel. Yeah, it was a telecoms company.
Exactly, yes. A very well-known telecom company at this time. I mean, more than 20 years ago. And then in my job, I was in charge for the whole R&D. And then at this time, the technology for the telecommunication, I was taking care about the mobile phone. And the screen, the camera, and the battery was really in Japan. Oh. So I travel a lot here in Japan to make sourcing and to make the qualification of the component.
That's a nice position. You come into Japan to buy something as opposed to trying to sell something. I always thought that being the buyer for Japanese goods and services would be the best job in the world, as opposed to trying to be the seller. But that was nice.
No, I am engineer. So then I have a technical background and I like all the commercial stuff. So it was natural for me to take care about the purchasing. So in fact, in addition to my technical background, I started to be a buyer. And then I came to Japan, really to evaluate the technology and to make the selection. And it was my job at this time. And then I discovered Japan 25 years ago.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So long story.
Where does Mrs. Boulet fit into this picture? Your Japanese wife. How did you meet her?
So in fact, I met her in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And, yes, and we were working together on a common project of the joint venture between a French company and a Japanese one, which is very famous because it's Sharp. The TV maker, air conditioning maker, very famous in Japan. And then we spent 2 years on a common project, and then we built our own personal project at this time.
At the same time.
At the same time. Then
was a great side hustle you had going there. Right?
Yeah. And finally, she decided, to leave Japan and to follow me. Oh, okay. And one of the reasons for her that, the woman in Japan to work in a big companies, that's not easy. We know this. It's not a secret. So, and then she found a similar job in France in a Japanese company doing games. It's a Namco Bandai, probably no? Have you heard the games? And then she make a big evolution there. Wow. Yeah, so she was happy to work for a Japanese company in France.
And then you drag her out of there and come back here.
Yeah, that's why my boss told me, "Oh, you know very well Japan." I said, "Yes, for sure." After so many years, and then we moved back to Japan. And but at the beginning, it was very surprising for me, but she said, "No, I don't want to come back to Japan."
She said that, right?
Yeah.
I like it in France.
Yeah, and she told me, you will be very busy, you will have no holidays, and you will work night and days, and have a drink, and need to have a beer every day. Yeah. I say, "No, okay, we will continue as we do in France," and but it was so difficult to convince her to come back to
Japan. She tasted the freedom
of France. Freedom and the time we can spend together. But anyway, now we are in Japan, in a French company, and then the rules are in fact close to the French, but for sure we localize our daily life. Yeah. But that's great.
Yeah, and so when you're involved in the setting up in Japan, but obviously they sent someone out initially to open the office, get the team together, and create the business here, I guess, right? So when you turn up, it's already running, there's already staff here. So how was that? Because the person who hired them, presumably, did all the hiring, organised the office space, organised, working with the clients, they set everything up. So you come in, they don't know you particularly well, I guess, compared to the predecessor. How is that in terms of getting people to follow you, to realise, okay, we've got a new boss now. We just trained the old boss on how we like things run around here. Now we've got to train the new boss on how we like things run around here. Was that difficult to get them to adjust to you, or was you had been coming regularly anyway and was quite a smooth transition? How was that?
So the story, it was a very light team at the beginning. And the boss was not in Japan. He was in Hong Kong or Singapore. Okay, so just making some trips. And it was a shared office. It was not a rental office as we are now today. Right. And so I try, to build a different way and to hire new people, probably younger than before, and try to buy, to create this team spirit and so that's why, I decided to rent an office instead of shared office.
Change the dynamic, change the culture, change the commitment, change the belief in what you're doing.
Exactly.
But, for a lot of companies like yourselves, you're sort of basically a startup in Japan. You're not a startup globally, but you're a startup in Japan, and you're following your clients around the world, so you're a global company. However, getting Japanese to sign on and join a French company that had no presence in Japan apart from having clients here, not that easy. So, you may have had a light touch when the company first opened here, but then you've had to go convince people, well, come and work for us. We're here now, come and work for us. How hard was that to get people to say, okay, I'm giving up my nice, safe job where I am now. I'm going to take this risky French company on and who no one's ever heard of. I'm going to come over here and work here. How hard was that?
So, yeah, that's part of the challenge. First, I think the most important is that our customers are multinational and
brand names.
Yeah, it's kind of a reinsurance, for the staff. To know that we say in France, we say prestige.
Yes.
Probably you understand the word.
Yes.
And I think this kind of information was very important for them to join, knowing that we are working for very strategic and very well-known customers. And so this is one point. The second point is.
And you're mainly hiring engineers? Is that the...
Yeah, mainly engineers.
And also, I met with a client, German company, big company here. I was shocked when they told me that their engineers were leaving not to go to a competitor in the same industry. They were going into completely unrelated industries as engineers because the demand for engineers is so strong. They're being poached out of this big, strong international company. It's a huge company. To go somewhere else. I was like, wow, it's not even the competitor is taking them. Someone else from a completely separate industry is the competitor. So I'm just wondering, was it hard enough to get people to join and then finding engineers to join? That must have been even doubly hard.
Yeah, but we bring a different environment here. I give a lot of autonomy to my staff, which is they appreciate it because no need, to have a Honko for every decision. Just come to me, and we are a small team, and that's the second part. The dynamic of our business. In addition to the autonomy, I can leave them, so they can even bring some new ideas. Wow, that's something, and that's really something, very different from the traditional Japanese company. I know, a lot of them now, and I can see that if the boss didn't approve, if it's not approved by all the staff and collectively, giving the green light, then the project will be very slow. And all this, it's not our DNA, and it's not what our customer expect from us. And so we bring really this different point of view, and this attract talents,
Yeah, I guess, speed in Japan is a difficult thing to achieve in the decision-making process. I mean, the execution process, that's a bit different. But I know in my own case, my own company, we have our, we call it the Daily Dale, where we go through the vision, mission, values, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And part of that other stuff is I actually introduced a little mantra. I said, in our business at our size, we must have a strong sense of urgency. We have to be the speedboat. We cannot be the oil tanker. Because they're all oil tankers. I found it's slow to try and get things done, and trying to say, when you're a relatively small company in a big market like Japan, your advantage is speed, your advantage is flexibility, adaptability, and introducing innovation, and that's what keeps you alive, keeps you surviving. So trying to get speed in Japan is not easy, but it sounds like similar for you, that this is an advantage for you to bring speed to the market, bring speed to your clients, to have something that's a differentiated advantage, I guess.
So in fact, the speed is mandatory for us. We are a very technological company, and there is a big evolution, continuous evolution. But we face the difficulty in Japan of the decision process. That's true. We started a project with a famous coffee brand in American coffee brand with a lot of place in Japan, and we started more than 3 years ago, and we are still on the pilot phase.
That doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
It's not surprising, but for us, it's very surprising because in Europe, this kind of decision takes 3 or 4 months because we do a pilot, we decide, and then we test, and then we correct it. Here we have to really go into the details before anything, no surprise. They don't like the surprise, and then that's really something you need to live in Japan to understand. Otherwise, you will face a lot of pushback, and you will not make any progress. You will convince nobody because you will be seen as the nervous guy, arrogant and all this, and it's not the value you can push in Japan. However, I would say that it's an advantage to be seen as fast.
Yes.
Because then, and I have the case with some customer, even to buy something, sometimes they contact us. Can you buy it for me? Because if I do it, it will take 6 months.
Within the company's process to get the approvals.
Exactly, yes.
You buy it and bill us for it, it'll be fast.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
That's
very interesting, isn't it?
That's why, I strongly believe that the foreigner we are, with the big sensitivity of understanding what is Japan, how it works, it's a very good combination for the country. So for sure, we are here for our business first, but for the country, that's really an added value because then we can bring this energy and try, to combine the best of the two worlds. Because I would say that even if they are we can consider sometimes they are slow for the decision, but once a decision is took, then
off we go.
Yes, exactly what
Fast.
You mentioned about execution.
It's quick,
Yes.
But a company like ours, we do something very uncomplicated, really. It's not technical like what you're doing. We do training. And you would think that's probably not a difficult one to get through the decision-making process. It should be pretty quick. But invariably, when we finally get around to billing the client, I go back and I look at when did we have the first touch with this client? Oh my God, it can be 9 months.
Yeah.
9 months
I'm
ago.
no surprise.
The first conversation, to finally get the thing settled and then organized and then delivered and then billed. It's like, my God. So when you get to something that's highly technical, I think to myself, wow, that's really even another layer of difficulty. So, that drives you crazy, I have to say. In terms of the team, you I guess you've hired what? The majority of the team now, would they 80% be the people that you've hired? Would they be 50% now the people, the ones that you hired who are here, that you brought on board yourself?
Yes, in fact, some were there already, but I knew them from before, and I replaced nearly 50% of the team.
Right?
Yes.
In Japan, that makes a difference, doesn't it? Because when Japanese tend to feel very loyal to the person who hired them. Maybe in a way in the West, because we change jobs quite a bit, and your boss leaves, your boss hires you, and then your boss takes a job somewhere else. Like, oh, he's gone. We don't have that same concept so deeply, perhaps, but in Japan, the connection with the person who hired them is very, very strong, and so hiring your own people makes, I think, it easier as the boss to get that loyalty from that particular group. I mean, if you know the people before, it gets easier. But often people come in, they don't know anybody. And then the previous boss hired them all. That's not so easy to navigate, is it? So in terms of thinking about the team, what have you found has worked well? You mentioned a little bit before about the French flexibility, a little bit different air, a little bit different atmosphere here. What have you found works well to get people engaged to the company?
I think they need the clear direction. And that's really something important for them, to have. You cannot say do what you want and you will see. We will see what happened. No, but I think this is a common rule for the management. Not only probably a little more in Japan because they really want to have a very clear definition of where they need to go. So
from you.
Yeah, from me.
Yeah,
so
you take all the accountability, you take all the responsibility. Tell me what I'm going to do, and if it screws up, it's your fault. Right?
Yeah. But me, I don't read like this.
No.
I say it's more, the following, from the school, at school education here. It's very, very, a lot of QCM, a lot of details, and then that's if you know this, because my daughter, she has been in school in Japan before for the summertime, when we were living in France, and then she told me the difference between the education in Japan and in France. In France, you have a topic, you can say, you can tell a story, create a story, but no, in Japan, you have to follow what is written and stick tick the box.
Well, also the French, in my experience with the French education system is coming through our classes when we have French people in the class, because I noticed that the French system is based on critique and finding the faults and criticism, this sort of thing. It was like debate, that type of thing. Which, in Dale Carnegie, we don't have any critique. We say, well, tell me what that person's doing, feedback, what they're doing that's good, and then tell them how they can do it better. Don't tell them what they're doing wrong, and don't criticize them. But the French education is a little bit different to that. So I imagine for her, she's coming from quite a sharp debating academic exercise in France to sort of like follow the steps and don't rock the boat, and don't say anything out of turn.
Exactly. So she was happy that it's only temporary for summertime, I would say.
Right.
Knowing this, you need to anyway to balance, the kind of flexibility, autonomy, and anyway to give the guidelines. And to describe, the achievements they need to reach, and probably more details that when you do in Europe or US, where you can say, okay, to go to the point A to the point B, you use the way you want. If you do this, the result is not very good. I would say it's, the road can be longer. Between A to B, if you don't give, the at least they need kind of map, and so okay, I need to follow this direction.
So a little bit more, I'm not going to say micromanagement, but a little bit more specific guidance required.
Exactly. I would say more specific guidance too. Yes.
Eddie Jones has come back as the rugby coach here in Japan. You may know that, and when he was here previously as a rugby coach, I attended a talk he gave. And he's making the point that one of the biggest difficulties he had leading a team, which is a rugby team, as a coach, was he can't give them a specific game plan for every second of the game, because it's a dynamic environment. It's constantly changing. But the Japanese wanted to be told what to do. And he said, trying to build people to have a mindset that you are on the field, you see what's happening in front of you, you make a decision based on what you see, and then you go for it, and you are free to do that. He said it was incredibly difficult to get the teams to take that accountability and responsibility for making a decision. He said, if I told them to run a play, they'd just run the same play over and over and over and get killed by the opposition. It wouldn't change it because they were happy to follow the plan. So, that balance is difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's why, I want to keep a small team. Because with the small team, you can have everybody in the same room, and then we can create this kind of debate.
Right.
And so I try to really keep this size of team, and eventually subcontract what need a lot of resources. Okay. So for me, that's a good combination to keep, in fact, the dynamic, and to be sure that everybody communicates. Same, behind us there is open space, completely open space, which is new for them, because before, they had a kind of small box, partitions, so difficulty for communications. But then I open everything, and I create some poles, some department, but department is 5 meters from each other, so so that's not really separation, No. And then I create the relation with them, and I say, please, you see that he's available, go to see him. Don't write any message, because at the beginning, they say, I don't want to disturb. That's kind of it's really something in Japan, not disturb.
And also
other people.
there's a record. There's a physical record of what you wrote too, which for a lot of countries, companies, they want to have that record. If there's a dispute or some disagreement or something goes wrong, they go, well, hang on a minute, I sent this email to you on such a date and you didn't do anything about it. It's not my fault. It's like that type of thing too. So the verbal doesn't have a physical record, right? It's gone once you've said it. So that's also, I guess, part of that protection.
Yes, that I don't feel this here because I really want them, if there is an issue, to talk now, not delay the discussion.
Bring it out.
And yes, eventually we have a room here and we can talk about that. So I am in the middle of the team. They can access to me anytime. So if there is something they disagree, they come to me and then we talk about it and we find a solution. So make it easy. And I think they like finally to be relaxed from the rules, from the education rules and for the tradition and so on. So that's kind of relaxed time finally for them to be in the office.
Well, also that freedom is counterbalanced by we are willing to let people learn through making mistakes. The Japanese system, no mistakes, no defects, no errors, no minimum viable product. It's got to be perfect. Mm-hmm. So when you're in that no error environment, there's not much freedom. But if your boss says, look, we're going to give you freedom, and if there are some mistakes, we'll deal with those. We'll fix them, but we're not going to kill you for it. We're going to punish you for it. We're going to fire you for it. We're learning here. We're trying something new. It's a learning experience for all of us. We're going to gain from this in the long term. That is the balance, isn't it? Because if you say, hey, you got freedom, and then they make a mistake, you made a mistake, you idiot, well, that doesn't work, does it? You've got to have both sides of that coin.
That's completely true. And that's part, for me, that's kind of natural because I've learned the management like this. So it's not difficult for me, to bring this here. And that's something I really do is to say, okay, but you have one chance, one mistake. That don't make the same mistake 2 times. That's really something, you have to anyway to put a limit.
That's a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you don't put the boundaries, and if you are not clear about where they can go and where they cannot go, and it's true for all kind of management in any countries, even with your kids sometimes. So if you apply this, that's fine. They understand that they can do mistakes, so they can take risks. Okay, and once they know this, okay, they don't hesitate to move and to bring new ideas and so on. And after, okay, you have done a mistake, that's fine. Everybody agree that we can do better. Yes, can you help each other? Because it's not, I want to keep the group involved, not to point out one people, because you can rely on your team to take a better decision. So
if you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. And usually I find too a lot of, mistakes or my expectation of what I think's happening is not the reality. And often you don't know because you think you've explained it, everyone's clear, and then you move on, something else pressing. And then at some point you come back to that thing and you realise, hang on, wait a minute, we're not doing that. I thought we were doing that. And is that a mistake? Is that a fault in my communication? Is it a fault in their understanding of what was happening? We didn't have enough double check on that? Because that's where I find it's not so much actual mistakes as misunderstandings or expectations are misplaced, or you think we all understand what we're doing here, but actually no. That's what I find very frustrating, and I have to keep reminding myself, double check that something's happening, write it down, double check, because it may not be happening.
You're right.
How about your experience?
Yeah, in fact, I can see that we face different education, as I mentioned before. The language, even if English is used every day, sometimes you cannot understand the same thing. Sometimes even if you speak the same language, you have misunderstandings. So you have this additional layer of communication, which is not easy. And then the third thing is really to understand that the speed is a third factor for me. Because you believe that it could be done in 1 hour.
Yeah.
So that's why sometimes there is a misunderstanding, not on the task itself, but on the speed to do it. Okay? And then it's a third dimension, I would say, because you say, oh, you need 1 hour. And if I do it, it will be 1 hour for me because I know how to do it and I know how to do it quickly. But as it's the first time for them, they want to be cautious. They don't want to do any mistakes. There is
slow everything down.
Yes. So they take sometimes 1 week. Yeah. And so that's why.
But there's also a thoroughness there too, isn't there? Like, I'm coming from Australia, so we're pretty laid back culture down there. And yet I notice in Japan, like they take it really seriously. And like, for example, if we're introducing a new training content, new course or something, the amount of preparation they will do as trainers before they go and deliver that course is deep and long. It's really like, wow, and maybe Australia, we wouldn't go that deep and long. We'd probably do it a bit faster, maybe not as perfectly, but we'd get it done, right? But in Japan, no, it's got to be perfect. So yeah, your speed expectations can sometimes hit the perfectionism wall, and which is better. I mean, to be perfect or be quick. I mean, it'd be better if you're perfect and quick.
But I think they don't want to disappoint.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of examples like this where I say, okay, can you be ready for Monday? And then the panic. I see the panic in the eyes. I say, but no, I cannot be ready. I need 1 month. But to what? To what? To which achievement? And then when we compare the expectation and what they have in mind, we see the gap. So that's why you need to come in details, because I say for Monday,
they're thinking this, and you're thinking this. Problem,
exactly, yes. So I just need a demo, even if it's fake demo, but just to show, the main feature. Okay. Then, and then we can progressively, and adjust. So you need anyway to come to the level detail enough for everybody to align and to be sure that we will have the same understanding. So it's more time, because when you share the same culture, same education, in France, when I have a team in France and even in US, and I say, can you be ready for Monday? The answer is always yes. But I don't know what I will have.
Yes, but it's not much good.
Yes, I can be ready, and I will adjust what I will show according to the time I have. This is automatically done.
How they adjust it,
Yes, they adjust, because they know that they have 2 days and to be ready, and then and there is no more question. But here, to be sure that you will be ready on Monday, you need to be sure that what will be ready for Monday. And then you start, in fact, to dig into a lot of details.
In terms of getting ideas from people, because often, you're coming from France, you've got a lot of experience, expertise in this area. You're plugged into the world through your company and through your experience in different companies. So you have a lot of ideas. And same with me, I've got lots of ideas. And I'm always conscious that I've got to be careful that I'm just not a constant flood of ideas, about what we can do to improve and speed up and do things. And I've actually got to say to myself, don't forget to get their ideas out instead of just flooding them with my ideas. So what have you found works well to get ideas from the team, from their side?
So that's part of the difficulty, is to really nurture, the fact that they can bring ideas and they can really be innovative. So that's really the difficult part for me. And so I told you already that I try, to be open, to let them some autonomy. But innovation, I would say, is more coming from our central team than Japan.
Right.
That's yes. We have tried, to make innovation in Japan, and that's quite difficult in our field.
Do you have a I don't know, an ACRELEC type of template on ideation, how you generate ideas, how you scoop them up, anything like that?
We have it, but not in Japan.
Not in Japan?
No. In Japan, we are more in a distribution mode and relation with the customer, but innovation center is close to our innovations customer center, which is more in America.
So, okay, well, there's innovation, right? It doesn't have to be technical innovation. It just can be system innovation. It can be administration innovation. It can be sales innovation. It can be customer onboarding innovation. There's any number of areas you can innovate and improve, apart from R&D. I mean, normally in big companies, the R&D people are totally specialized people, but I'm thinking not the R&D people. I'm thinking non-R&D people. Any opportunity to get some ideas from the team in any way you can improve in the organization.
So I have to say, I didn't really push this concept here. I try to let them, bring some ideas, but for the time being, the team is not mature enough. For example, I push digitalization a lot.
Okay.
Which is even for administration, we use Power BI now to see the sales figures and the stock level and to have a visibility on the future. But this concept is relatively new for Japan. So I'm not sure if in the university and so on, if they have this kind of information, because it seems to discover that Power BI exists. So they've heard about ChatGPT, all the AI system, but they're very shy to use it. So I don't see a very big trend of innovation coming from the staff. For what I see now in my team and around me, and I have to say that the innovation is really something bring more by outside of Japan for the time. I think there is a time where Japan was very innovative, and you see the big brands as Sony and so on. They bring a lot of things, with the Walkman, with the PlayStation, if I take the electronic world, but in a lot of fields. And I would say that now I don't see so much innovation coming from Japan.
It could be that the Kaizen incremental improvement has sort of been gazumped, overtaken by big technical leaps. It's like, it happened in the West too. If you remember Nokia, making better and better Nokia phones, and then Steve Jobs turns up and says, you're out of business because I've got this new thing here that takes apps. And we've got all these app developers creating stuff for us, like goodbye Nokia, And, similar things here where they talk about Japan as Galapagos Island, which is, very unique flora and fauna because it's so isolated off the South American coast. And Japan in the same way, it tends to be isolated inside Japan. And the innovation doesn't go out. And so you get leaps and they get overtaken. So I guess that having to come up with patterns of innovation or thinking about innovation or even just, regular
incremental innovation. In fact, as you mentioned, step by step, and don't really disrupt the situation and the solution we have. That's something I see. I have some example in my fields because, you know, we promote the display and the display for the menu in the restaurants. Okay. And then some customers say, why do you want me to have a screen? My menu is the same since 20 years. I have a paper menu. Why should I change? You see, because it's the same menu and everybody is happy, even the customer. The customer, you know, it's very relaxing for the Japanese customer to go in the same restaurant and they know they will find the same dish with the same taste, and this true since 20 years. So that's why, you know, even I would say the Japanese society is probably not ready to accept this kind of change.
Yeah.
So you cannot really push innovation if the customer is not happy with or not demanding, you know. And so that's part of our difficulty to bring innovation here, that even the end customer in the street, sometimes there is some pushback and is not so interested. But they have a very good marketing, you know. You can see in the car industry, and so they bring a little additional feature and they promote it as you need to change your car because then there is additional functionality. It's true for electronic and so on. So one side, the marketing is so good that they can bring innovation that probably it's not really absolutely necessary to survive. You know, the additional button to do this and to do this. And sometimes, you know, we see that's the big pity for me in my market, that there is a kind of pushback and they want to be conservative and to keep the same as before with a little incremental. So that's kind of.
I like this saying about, you know, Japan prefers the devil they know to the angel they don't know. Mm. So the angel should be preferable to the devil, but they stick with the devil because they know it, and they don't feel there's any risk because it's known. But the angel, not well known, maybe there's some risk in there. No, thank you. I'll stick with what I'm doing now. So in terms of trust, building trust, what have you found works well in getting trust from Japanese teams?
I would say the trust, you know, is to say what you will do and to do it. So if you are on time, you of your commitment, and you follow and you deliver what you commit, the trust comes directly. I mean, I don't see any pushback about this, and it's always true. And they are very, very strict about this. So if one commitment is missed, you can lose the trust you have built for the last 5 years.
You lose the business.
Yeah, but if you speak about the team, you know,
yeah,
the trust of the team, one fault, and if you are gaijin, probably it's even worse in this case, you know. So I really try not to overcommit.
Okay, don't overcommit.
That's kind of advice. Don't overcommit. Don't make promise you are not completely sure that you can deliver.
Though, the expectations on speed are so low. So, for example, if it was something you could do, today is Thursday, say it was something you could do by Monday, you don't have to say, I'll have it done by Monday. No. So, well, could I have it done by the following Friday? Yeah. And then it's ready on Tuesday or something, you know, so you're ahead of it.
So happy.
You're ahead of it, exactly, right? So, whereas in maybe other countries, like, what, you can't do it on Monday? What are you talking about? Why Friday's way too long? Yeah. Speed it up. So on the flip side, Japan allows you a little bit more time.
Yes.
And I found that myself too often with clients. I'd be putting together proposals and I would always be going for the fast turnaround. Mm. And then sometimes I'd be putting a lot of pressure on myself because I got a lot of other things to do. And I realized, well, what are you doing, stupid? The Japanese aren't looking for such a fast turnaround. Yeah. That's you. Take a little bit, ask for a bit more time. So can I take a couple of days on this? Yeah, fine. No one's complaining, right? So yeah, I think we can adjust ourselves some way. That'll give ourselves a bit of slack to compensate for that too.
I think reliability is more important than speed.
Yeah,
Definitively in a lot of things in Japan, and that's why you no need to overcommit, no need to promise something you are not 110% sure to achieve, and then you build the trust, and then probably another dimension is kind of justice or equality between people, and no need to show that you prefer somebody that somebody else. This kind of attention, is not when. So you have to be very, very honest with everybody and very equal in the treatment of the people, because that's really kind of jealousy comes very easily, and this is this kind of poison, at the end, and so this is something in a small group you have really to manage.
Also, I think around the clients, because. The Japanese really identify with the client strongly. And as the boss, if you do things like, okay, we're going to shortcut this client because we're going to make more money, no one's happy about that. No, and the trust is going to be destroyed. Yeah. But on the other hand, if, you may actually have a smaller piece of work to do, because that's all they need, rather than a larger piece of work, which they don't need, but you give them the best fit for what they need, respecting what they require. From a staff point of view, I think they respect that. They think, oh, okay, my boss is really thinking about the client. He's not just thinking about the money. We're not ripping off the client. We're not shortcutting things for the client. We're actually doing the right thing. And I feel I can trust my boss's integrity. And also, the worst thing is I've worked in, I won't say which company, but I've worked with a company that was saying this about the client relationship until the economy tanked. And then suddenly, behavior changed completely. I was so shocked. It was like, what? Hang on a minute. And for me, it broke the trust for me with the company. I thought, hang on, wait a minute. You said over here this, but now you completely, you're going against that. Not consistent.
It's not accepted here.
You're not consistent. So I didn't like it. So, and I think also for Japanese team members too, that consistency and integrity and respect for the client and their interests, as opposed to just, we're going to squeeze a bit more dough out of the buyer. That doesn't go down too well here, does it? No.
The point is, then we have to bring, something different anyway in the relation with the customers, because the customer in Japan, sometimes they ask too much. And
that's true too.
So for example, you say, okay, let's plan a meeting at 8 p.m. from 8 to 10. Say, no, you have to reject it. And then, I see in their face, again, the panic mode is coming.
Say no to the client.
Yeah, say no to the client. Wow, my boss is crazy. So then I say, okay, I will call the customer and explain him why we will not do it. And, okay, this is appreciated, because then you take accountability. Yeah, exactly. Yes, and
the client probably has no idea about French labour law or French custom of working overtime and late hours and work-life balance and all this sort of stuff at all. They're just working a typical Japanese system.
Yeah,
none of that.
That's true. And then we have to educate the customer too sometimes, and it's not arrogant to say that for me. It's just the society, Japanese society, the young people, they don't want to work like this.
That's right. Actually, you're helping them. You're helping them, because if they don't change the way they're working, they won't have young people working for them. I'll go somewhere else.
Exactly, yes. That's the point. So I want to protect my team when I do this. It's not that, for sure, I don't want to lose the customer. And I will not lose it, because I will explain the situation, and then there is overtime, and then they have to wake up early in the morning. I will arrange for sure the situation to make the customer understood the situation and to change his mind, because even for his own team, it's relaxing to say, okay, well, we will do a little earlier or the day after, and so this is kind of to build the trust and action you have to do as a manager. I think it's really to protect your team against the customers, and I mean not against the customer, but against the
unreasonable demands from the customer, which in Japan.
Exactly, yeah. But if there is a big issue, it's what I said to my team. If there is, for example, in a restaurant, they cannot use anymore the product. Okay, hey guys, there is an emergency here. And then we can work even in the nighttime, to solve the customer issue. Exactly.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's a bit different.
And then, you show to the customer and to your team that we need to be supporting them.
Yeah. But that's, those exceptional cases are not weekly cases, whereas the sort of, unreasonable demands from the buyer is very typical in the Stauke, the sort of, subcontractor system they've got here, where they really work the Stauke subcontractors so hard and so unreasonable. And then everyone's in a situation where they can't say no. So it sort of breeds the wrong type of efficiencies, breeds the wrong type of culture, doesn't it? But as you say, I think the younger generation have worked that out and said, well, you know what? No, I'm not doing that. I don't care. I can get a job anywhere. So thank you and goodbye.
Exactly, yes. But they will say goodbye. They will not say no at the time of the request.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. And then again, we face to the culture. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's where, we can bring an added value, is to protect them and to say no instead of them, because they will not be able to say no. So that's very important for me.
We talked a little bit about culture already, and the French culture, Japanese culture, and then you've got the company culture overlays the globe and how that works, the values and the vision, mission, all that sort of stuff, and then you have Japanese culture here, so we're always interpreting the global stuff into Japanese context, and around language and action and expectations and speed and all those sorts of things. And then you've got you as the boss. You've got a certain taste you want, or a certain flavour, atmosphere you want in the organisation, which you think is the best. So what have you found works well building a culture in Japan?
Sorry, what?
What works best in building a culture in Japan?
The best.
Not the best culture, but building the best way to build a culture.
The best way to build the culture, okay. That's, I think, is very difficult because it belongs to you. I mean, you have the culture, company culture. So I arrive in Japan, I have the DNA of my company. So proximity, ingenuity, and innovation. That's the three motto we have already. So I came in Japan with this already, okay? And then I need to continue to bring this, because that's our DNA and it has to be developed in any countries. Okay, that's our fabric. That's our way to proceed, and that's what our big customer requests. Okay, because you have to match anyway.
Well, they expect the same service around the world, don't they? And if you don't get it,
exactly,
you don't understand. You say, wait a minute. We deal with you everywhere. In this country, we get this, but here we get that. Yes. What are you talking about?
Exactly, yes. So then I came with this three motto here, and try to bring to train and to bring the people, my team, understand why first, because if you explain why. There is more chance that they understand and they agree, and then they can really promote it. Okay.
But you said what? Proximity, ingenuity, and integrity.
Innovation. Sorry.
Yeah. So proximity, ingenuity, and innovation. I mean, it's a bit like motherhood and apple pie. You can't argue against those things. I mean, it's hard to say, well, I don't like ingenuity, or I'm against innovation. Or I don't want to be close to the customer. Like, I disagree. The things that are so given, aren't they? It's not something you can argue against.
Among the quantity of possibility, that's the three we want really to promote. And proximity is probably the most important. So I told my team, you have to go to the customer. You have to keep a very good relation with them, but be there, don't only email, don't only do the chat and so on. I want you to be there.
Physically go there.
Physically. And if there is nothing to see, there is nothing to see. If there is nothing to discuss, okay, no problem. But you have to show your face to the customer. And so by the proximity, you have more understanding of the customer needs. And sometimes, the customer say, I have an idea. I want to try this. You are in front of me. So he asked to the first people he met.
Yes. So not your competitor.
Yeah, not the competitor. Exactly. Yes. So that's really how I started, to build the culture in this team. I bring, the DNA of the company, and I really try to continue. And finally, this is universal. I mean.
Yeah, I agree. And if, Patrick, if someone rang you up and said, hey, Patrick, I've been given this big job in Japan. I might be run the organization there, but I don't know anything about Japan. I don't speak Japanese. How can I be successful as a leader in Japan? What advice would you give them?
Well, first, it's not easy. It was easier for me due to my personal situation, because I've traveled, 50 or 60 times in Japan already. So my family, my mother family, wife family, and so that's true. I started with a lot of benefit. So if you know anything about Japan, I would say first take probably a few months. And yes, you have to understand this country. That's really different from what you know before. So this is definitely a first step. About the language, I would say I don't face so big issues because I hire staff who speak Japanese and English, and it's a good way. So it's not the most difficult part, the language, because anyway, to reach the level of Japanese, you need to drive a business negotiation, it's years.
So, it's a big investment.
Yeah, it's a big investment. And at the end, always you will say, hey, it's not perfect. So I would say, for me, for the daily life, you need for sure to have the Japanese. I have it, and that's enough for my daily life. But to do a full business meeting with all, the subtlety of the language and so on, it's really something. So,
and it's so difficult. I mean, I've had these experiences where I've been selling when I was based in Australia. I'd come up to Japan. I'd have like 8 meetings a day. I would set these meetings in Australia, come up and just try not to sell real estate in those days, big office buildings and hotels and golf courses and office buildings, that sort of stuff. And I go into one meeting, understand everything. I'm a genius. Go into the next meeting, can't understand anything. I'm an idiot. What happened between these 2 meetings to me? I was so good in the last one. I'm so bad in this one. I can't understand one damn word this person's saying. I can't get anything. And I think that's the trick too, even though you speak the language, and it's the same in our own languages. Some people are very concise and clear and easy to understand in French or in English, and you get it, it's fine. But you meet other people, you can't understand what are they trying to say here? I can't follow the point. Well, it's difficult. So then when you put that in a foreign language, it can be very hard again. So even if you do speak the language, it's going to vary from client to client and individual to individual who you're speaking with. So it's never going to be perfect, is it?
Yeah.
Any other things they should think about?
I think you don't have to really have expectation on the speed. We already talked about it.
Yeah, speed is something I'm going to park that one for a while.
So if you arrive saying, okay, 1 year, I will do everything. No. Your investment should be multi-years. And so that's why I plan to stay minimum 5 or 6 years. The first 2 years, the first year is just to understand. The second year, you can start to make some testing, some approach, and then the trust starts after 3 years, because anyway, the customer and the people you are working with are just, okay, he's just a tourist, he just come for a short period. So
don't invest in him.
Yeah, don't need to invest in him. He will leave.
He won't be around.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So you have to show that you are stable, and you really want to stay a long time. So that's something, even if it's not exactly your plan, you have to show this to your contact.
Well, the commitment is that. It's the commitment to the market. And Japanese rotate within their companies. April, you person you're talking to says, "Oh, by the way, I'm moving to this new division." So they move. I mean, they've got it's not like they stay in the same actual physical job necessarily the whole careers, but they do rotate around within the company. So there is change. There's an understanding people will move. And if we're moving from country to country, well, it's not that different, is it? But I think that mentality around being committed to the client while you're here, and to see that the organisations are working well, and even if you're not here, that your successor can build on that. I think that commitment is the key to actually mentally have that as your starting point, as opposed to, oh, this is going to be my springboard or my next step of my glorious ever upward career. No. Bye Japan, and here comes wherever else I'm going. So that's a different mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. So we are working with big companies, and April 1st. There is always a change. However, it's beneficial for us, because then, if the guy was at the quality and then he go to purchasing, and then if we convince them and we gain the trust.
Trust is there.
Yeah, the guy is still here. So he will be in different department, but he can still promote our brand and our services and our team. So that's the stability finally. Even if they change job, normally they kept, the same entity, the same group, and then you can create this relationship.
And you can always call on them too, I mean, just because they've moved sections doesn't mean they won't take your call, or they won't help you. Say, hey, listen, I know you've moved sections, but I'm having a problem. Who should I talk to about this, or can you help me with this? And generally, if your trust is built and the relationship is built, they'll do it. They'll say, okay, I'll take care of it.
And as they stay normally 3 to 5 years in the same position, the cycle could be long for everybody, to know everybody in the organization. So that's really a long-term involvement. But once you gain this trust, for your team for sure, but with your customer, then you can build a lot of things. So that's really something you have to take into consideration. You should not come for 2 or 3 years. You have to think that your life will be longer in Japan than probably you imagined at the beginning.
Everything takes longer here, so you've got to stay longer. What's your definition of leadership, Patrick? Your definition of leadership. How would you define leadership?
I would say it's empathy, and so you have to really believe that we are all individuals, okay? So you cannot really manage all the people in the same way. So for me, the leadership is a balance between understanding and empathy, and really flexibility, and you need really to train the people. So if you train them, they will reward you, okay? And if you are rewarded from them, then you can bring them where you want, because that's really a relation you need to build. And then leadership is just, for me, justice. Okay, there is a mistake. We have to say that there is a mistake. Sometimes you have to say, don't do it again, and so on. So that's a balance between, really empathy and training, and at the same time you need to put the limit and to put the boundary. And sometimes, as I mentioned to the customer, you need to be in front. The leadership is sometimes, that you take the problem in front of the customer and you protect your team. And that's really something important for me.
Well, fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.